HIV and what is AIDS? Well, let's first look at HIV. HIV is a virus that attacks our immune system, and if we expand this out, we can see that reflected in its name, human immunodeficiency virus. So this implies that it does something wrong to our immune system somehow, and we'll actually explore that a little bit later on. And if we don't treat HIV, it will eventually cause AIDS in the infected person. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. So right away, you already get a sense that HIV attacks your immune system so destructively that you end up acquiring an immune deficiency system. And it puts you in a state of immune system failure, so you end up not being able to fight off even the most basic infections. And this immuneless state is what we call AIDS. So let's explore this a little bit more. Let's use the half of a graph. This might be helpful. So here's our graph, and we'll put time down here on our x-axis, and just to make this extra useful, we'll put weeks in this beginning part here, and then we'll transition to years here, and you'll see how this is relevant in few more minutes here. So on the y-axis here, we'll put CD4 lymphocytes count. T lymphocytes are really important type of immune system cell, and CD4 just refers to a type of protein that stalk through their cell membranes. That's kind of how we like to identify them, by this protein on their membranes. And the reason they get a special spot on the entire axis of our graph here is because they are super important in the progression of HIV infection to AIDS. Because as you might have suspected, it turns out that HIV preferentially loves to infect these CD4 cells of our immune system. These CD4 cells, also called helper T cells, plays a huge role in signaling your other immune systems to come and destroy every given infectious particle that our body discovers, like maybe strep throat bacteria or viruses, or even HIV viruses for that matter. So these CD4 cells are kind central. They're almost like little amplifiers of our immune system. So because HIV loves to infect and kill these cells, it completely disrupts our immune system function and renders it essentially useless. So let's say you acquire HIV on your body, either your bloodstream or your tissues, maybe through unprotected sex with uninfected partner. So what happens? Well, the main thing is that the virus really quickly gets into your white blood cells, so these helper T cells, the CD4 cells we talked about. And from inside a white blood cell, it can do two things. One, it can sort of hijack your cell's machinery, so it manages to insert its genetic material into your own cell's DNA. And from there, it starts to make lots and lots of copies of itself. Lots of new HIV particles. That's really important, so let's put that on our graph. And let's say this is the viral load on our y-axis, viral load referring to amount of HIV in your bloodstream. So we can see that after our primary infection, here the viral load starts to increase. It's hijacked our helper T cells, and now new HIV particles are being churned out, and our viral load is majorly on the upswing. And you'll notice that viral load is starting to rise and around 2 to 3 weeks mark. And that just because it takes a bit of time for HIV virus production to start sort of ramping within our bodies. And of course, a major concern here is, well, the more HIV there is in your bloodstream, the more CD4 cells get infected. But the biggest problem here is the thing number 2, is that HIV infection of your CD4 cells triggers the self-destruct sequence within these cells. So you end up losing these CD4 cells. And worse, the self-destruct sequence doesn't just destroy infected cells. It even destroys nearby immune cells that may have come into the area to try to help out. You do end up losing lots of more cells than just the infected ones. And that's part of why you see this massive drop off here, this line representing our CD4 T cell numbers. So the other thing I want to point out here is you can see this massive rise in viral load and this pretty massive drop in CD4 levels, and this huge viral load means that this period right early on in an affection is when someone with HIV has the highest risk of transmitting it to someone else. I guess one good thing here is that eventually, maybe a month or so in, your immune system gets somewhat of handle on this virus, and it starts to make anti-HIV antibodies, right? Those are just antibodies against HIV. So they start to fight off the virus to some extent, and this is called seroconversion. When you make antibodies to something, so now we've seroconverted it to HIV. So now the antibodies get to work on helping to destroy the viral particles, and that's why we see the decrease here in viral load in the bloodstream, the viral levels to some degree. And this also gives our CD4 cells a chance to recover to some extent because there's less virus around to infect them. So you might be wondering how you're gonna feel during all of this with a massive battle going inside your body. Well, you're gonna feel sick. You're probably gonna feel like you're having the worst flu you've ever had. So about here, a month or so in at seroconversion, you start to fight the infection. As a result, most people get some serious flu-like symptoms. So things like headache and fever, sore throat, muscle pains, joint pains, and some people get swollen glands, just sort of fatigue and feeling unwell. Some people get rash, some people get some open sores in their mouth. So actually, one of the two criteria has to be met before we can say that someone has AIDS. Either they have to have extremely low amounts of CD4 cells in their blood. To get a little bit technical here, it's if they have less than 200 CD4 cells per microliter of blood. With the normal count of CD4 count in this amount of blood, it should be around 1,000 to 1,100 CD4 cells, or regardless of CD4 count, if they have any of the AIDS-defining illnesses, like either of these, for example, then we can say that they have developed AIDS.